RWBY Volume 2, World of Remnant, Episode 3, Grimm. I definitely enjoyed this episode. For one, it was the longest one we've had. It was 3.5 minutes long. But two, I think the tone of this one was definitely my favorite. My favorite part about the last one we got, which was about the kingdoms, my favorite part about that was actually the stuff they mentioned about the sort of outskirts, the random little villages, because it was sort of sad and depressing because it's like it's a little sign of hope, but ultimately those things just get wiped out overnight and they can just poof, it's like a ghost town. People just disappear. So that was my favorite part because the tone of it was just interesting, and that's how this entire little episode felt. It was like the entire tone was grim because it is about the Grimm, and it was really good. I enjoyed the information about it. We actually got a funny moment in this towards the end where we got a really cool bit of information that the Grimm, whenever they die, their bodies actually disintegrate. They just evaporate into the air after a little bit of time. But people have fake recreations of those, and they sort of showed the professor who has like the Boris head. I can't think of the actual name for that specific Grimm, but he has that Boris head, and he has the whole story behind it. So, excuse me, that was kind of funny that they put that in there, and it's like, oh, it's a little reference to the normal episodes, and that story that he always tells people is absolutely fake. So it was kind of funny that they put that in there, but ultimately I thought this was a really good one. It was a lot like the Dust one, where I did find the information very useful because it was stuff that we just never knew, like them evaporating. I thought that was very interesting stuff. The science behind it kind of sucked because they didn't really give us any answers. It's the answer that the world itself doesn't actually know. Like scientists within the world of RWBY don't really know the answer. So it kind of sucked that we couldn't get definitive answers because that's just how the world has actually been created. But it's still very interesting. We got to see a little bit more about the fact that when Grimm live for longer, they learn about fighting humans. And the example they showed was actually very cool because it wasn't the same example we got in the previous episodes. It was actually the typical Grimm we get to see, which is like basically a big werewolf. It's the Beowulf, and instead of it being the elephant getting bigger and stuff, it was actually a Beowulf that went from the typical version that we see to one that was actually much larger, and it had like gray hairs and stuff. So the fact that they put that in there was very cool to me because I never thought that the Grimm actually changed over time. Like the elephant ones, I honestly didn't think about it. I didn't think that they were kind of born and then they grew into the bigger elephants. I just thought that's just how they are. It's like no one knows, it's pure speculation of how they come about. But it was cool to see that when they are born or created, whichever version however you want to look at it, they do actually grow. And like I said, we knew that from the episode, but it was really cool to see that because, like I said, it went from the small typical Beowulf that we see, which is the most common form, to this really tall version that initially was about the same size as a human, and then when it grew up and it had more hair and it had gray hairs and stuff, it actually stood and it hovered over the two humans it fought. And the way they showed the images is that it was watching one Grimm that got killed by a human, and then it grew up over time, and then it was strong enough to take on two humans. So that was a really cool portion. The really early on portion where they talk about the fact that there are a ton of different types of Grimm that are, they said, being discovered every day, that really caught my attention. And also the part where they mention that there are wild animals. It's not just Grimm are the wild animals of the RWBY universe. It's that Grimm are wild creatures, but there are still wild animals. There are regular werewolves out there. So that was really cool, and they don't fight each other really. Grimm just attack humans, and they don't need to feed or anything. They kind of just do. So that was fairly interesting. I enjoyed that. We also learned the stuff about how Grimm are attracted to bad human emotions and things like that in the episode because of Dr. RWBY before. But it was cool that they kind of reiterated that, and they even talked about how villages who are able to survive one big attack probably won't survive much longer because just the sheer panic. It's not even bad emotions like you're angry at someone, it's just bad emotions in general, like I'm really scared. That will actually bring more Grimm to just scare you even more. So I thought that was really cool. It isn't just the fact that just like war will bring Grimm, it's like panic and maybe sadness, depending on how much it affects you, can bring the Grimm. So that was very interesting. I enjoyed that part of it. But overall, I thought this was a good one. It was, I don't know if I like this one better than the Dust one, just because the Dust one brought up a lot of questions and had a lot of answers in it too. And this one was, although it gave a lot of answers, the Grimm admittedly haven't been something I've thought too much about in the series, because I've been so focused on the characters and who they are and stuff about semblances, because we see that so much more. But I definitely did enjoy it. Like I said, my favorite part was without a doubt seeing the Beowulf actually grow old, just because it shows that not only do like the elephant form of the Grimm grow old, but they all do. So that was really cool. And this is something I didn't mention before, but like the Nevermore start really tiny, and that's the birds, and then they get huge. So I guess those are the incredibly powerful versions of the Nevermore. They start off so tiny, like bats or something, and then they get to just ridiculous sizes. So that's another thing that's pretty cool. Like they grow so large. Like it's not just like, oh, a human grows, you go from, little baby to max height, unless you just go like way beyond that. You're probably only like five something, or possibly hitting like 6 feet tall. And then the Grimm, it's just like super exponential. It's like you start off like a tiny little bird or a regular sized bird, and then when you're a giant Nevermore, you can like fly across like a state or something, and who knows how fast. But it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. Of course, I knew they were going to do this with the last 2 episodes of the season coming up. I just wasn't sure if they were going to do it before or after episode 11. But we're going to have a 2-part season finale. I would love to see both episode 11 and 12 be like 24 minutes long. That would be amazing, but I don't know if we're going to get that. And I'm still very curious as to what we will be seeing in these next 2 weeks. But I thought this was a pretty good third episode. I enjoyed it much more than I did the Kingdoms episode, but it's kind of on the same level. It might be a little bit behind the very first World of Remnant episode, Dust. But comment below and let me know what you guys thought about this one, your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And with RWBY Volume 2 ending fairly soon, do you guys want to have World of Remnant as a mini-series? And if you do, what things do you want to have in these little 3.5 minute long episodes? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.